Hi, I'm Jim Wilson, co-author of the new Entrepreneurial Leader, and I'm talking today to Bob Turner from Babson's Accounting and Law Division. Bob is a contributor to the book, author of one of the chapters in the book. Bob, how do organizations go about putting what we call SEERS, social, environmental, economic responsibility, and sustainability into practice?
Well, we're really seeing a significant growth in the number of companies who are now putting out corporate social responsibility reports.
Right.
PricewaterhouseCoopers does a survey, and about 81% of companies have some form of reporting on corporate social responsibility. And about 31% of those reports have some assurance attached to them, because there's always the issue about how reliable are those measures that they come up with. So we're seeing, I think, a real growth in that field among companies feeling a responsibility to the public to report on more than just profits.
Right.
And a couple good examples of companies that have done that. Indra Nooyi, who's the CEO of Pepsi, a few weeks ago was actually criticized by the financial markets a little bit because of her strategy about developing new, more healthy products in the Pepsi portfolio of products. And obviously this is a woman who's thinking more long-term about the company and not short-term. And one of the problems we have in financial reporting is too often the markets are focused on that quarterly earnings results as opposed to the long-term sustainability of the company. Gary Hirschberg is the CEO of Stonyfield Farms, and actually spoke at Babson a couple years ago in our MBA forum on environmental and energy conference. And his approach in his company is that he looks for ways to change the mindset in the company. He empowers employees to look for ways to cut costs or increase revenues while at the same time being concerned about the environment, being concerned about the long-term sustainability. And a good example he gave was they used to harvest sugarcane for their products and by burning the fields. He changed that to a green harvesting, which increased the production, didn't damage the field at the same time, produced more profits for the farmers, and also cut costs for Stonyfield. So I think it's getting companies to see that it's not about losing profits to become more concerned about environmental issues or sustainability issues, but it's a different mindset. It's a changing view of how we measure those results and what kind of metrics we develop for them.
So what are some of the metrics that you talk about in the chapter? We could get into that a bit. How do you begin to actually put this into accounting practice where the rubber hits the road?
Right. This is going to, as I've mentioned, it's going to be an evolving field.
Right.
A number of years ago, I actually had a chance to present in front of the accounting board in the country that was changing the requirements for not-for-profit organizations, and they talked about how the not-for-profits aren't concerned with profit, but are concerned with other ways to measure how successful they had been. And in the for-profit field, the same thing is true. So we need to develop those metrics, which will take time, and it's not going to be a science. It's going to be more of an art to sort of begin to say, how do we measure that? I mean, how do we tie the economic results of that company with that sustainability?
Right.
And it also gets people to think about a different mindset about how they view the success of a particular company. And it gets them to think beyond just the shareholders to the stakeholders.
Right. So how do we, at Babson, and how are you seeing in your research that educators can take this into the classroom or even in an executive education context? How can you teach this?
Well, I think one of the things you do is you bring everybody to the table with the notion that it's not about just doing good, but it's doing well financially. So you get people to think differently about how they measure the businesses, and you get them to think about the fact that it's not just the do-gooders here, it's the companies that really are thinking about sustainability that are successful in that regard. In fact, Verizon was another example that Kathy Brown spoke at the conference and talked about how she was trying to buy trucks and cars that were energy efficient and found out there weren't trucks in the marketplace. She pulled together 6 companies who went to the market and said, if you build it, we'll buy it. So she created the market.
Right.
So companies, I think, are now doing this, and I think we see this with our MBA students. They're excited about this. In fact, they come to us asking what we are doing as far as teaching sustainability in the classroom and what we're doing about SEERS in the classroom.
Right.
So I think it's coming from our customers as well, who are coming to us and say they assume that this will be part of their Babson experience.
Very good. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.